hard to say. What will be in that? But we've made God man. All right. Attributes of God. Mormon, God was once a man. Jewish, God is eternal. Always was, always will be. God is anthropomorphic. God is not corporeal. Now, you look at some of the older pieces of the Torah where, God fights on his people's side, where God walked in the garden. Yeah, you can take that a whole bunch of different ways. Was he walking right, as man, or in a symbolic sense? That's unclear. God is noble, as man is, God once was. As God is, man may become, which means we can then come to understand him. He's noble at that point. God is unknowable to the Jews. You can't know God. You can give him some attributes and stuff and try to figure out what he might be, but you can't know him. Nobody knows. Mormonism. There are many gods. Jewish. God has many names. So the difference between many gods and a bunch of different names for God. We give the attributes. Okay, then, what is the Spirit? When we talk about the Trinity, and Christianity has the same problem as Mormonism in this regard. When we talk about the Trinity, we're still talking about sort of a polytheistic type of thing. And that's one of the reasons, just one of the single reasons, why Jewish people will reject Jesus as the Christ, figure. Because nothing, no one can be equal to God. None. There cannot be any equal to God. God is it. That's it. You can try to understand God, but you'll never do it. And nothing can be equal to God. When you make Jesus equal to God, you've just introduced, again, a divine man into, it's an anthropomorphic God, basically. God now has a body, so he's anthropomorphic. That's the problem. And then the Spirit is even a worse problem. Spirit's a problem because of how the translations affect how we think about the Spirit. What is the Spirit? Is the Spirit male or female? In the Mormon sense, what's the Spirit?
It's male.
It's a male. Guess what the Spirit is in Jewish belief and practice? Female. Female. Two words for the Spirit. Ruach, which means breath, spirit, wind. So that, the Spirit of God swept across the waters. Well, no, the breath of God went across the waters. A wind from God went across the waters, and that wind was female. Shekinah. I've seen the Shekinah. This weekend, I saw the Shekinah. I was meditating. I saw the Shekinah. And it was female. What did I see? I don't know. I was meditating. I was in a transcendental state. Who knows? Is it my psyche doing something or something talking to me? I don't know. Don't ask me. But I saw the Shekinah. And it was a female. Now the funny thing is it was a white Northern European female in like a medieval gown. So yeah, I think my brain was trying to, put a picture to it. But the Shekinah is female, and the Shekinah is the presence of God. Not God, but the presence of God. And that presence of God rested upon the temple and the tabernacle. So a female presence was in the temple. Not a male presence. A female presence was in the temple. In order for a prophet of Israel to speak, the Shekinah had to descend upon that prophet so that the presence of God was with the prophet, so the prophet could speak. A female presence came upon the prophet.
Do the Mormons say that?
No, this is total Jewish belief. The Mormons say the Spirit's a male, and at some point, he gets his own world. And once he gets his body at the end of the millennium, the whole 9 yards, gets married, and has billions of spirit children because he did his job faithfully forever. He's a man. In Christianity, as well as in Mormonism, the Spirit's male. In Judaism, the Spirit is female. And if you look at the baptism of Jesus, what came out of heaven and lit upon him? A dove. It was the Shekinah. He is a prophet of God. Not the Messiah, not Hamashiach. He was a prophet. So, yes, he could be. Now, the Jews are going to reject him outright just because of what happened with Christianity. But if he hadn't have turned into the man God, they would have probably considered him a prophet. Probably considered him a prophet. And the Shekinah came down at him at that time. Yeah.
It seems odd, and I wonder how they reconcile this, that the Spirit of God is female and God is male. Why isn't God female too?
God has to have all attributes.
So it's both, huh?
Yeah, he's part of him.
Yeah.
Still part of him.
Okay.
And they got to call it something.
Okay.
Well, they could have called him a goat.
Okay.
Yeah, but God, since God creates everything, God had to have all these attributes to be able to make the creation. But the Shekinah and the Ruach are female. Female, which is great. It's great.
Is this stuff we know from the Kabbalah or from the scholars?
No, it's right out of the Torah. Right out of the Torah, yes.
How do the Mormons say that God was once a man when God made man?
Well, he became God after being man.
But I thought he made man.
Yes, God made man.
So how was he once a man?
Well, that's a really good question. that's a whole other topic. Just going around in circles, a whole bunch to be able to do that.
I got a question.
Yeah.
In the temple, the Jewish, they gave food to their God that lived in the temple. Every day they give a shewbread for God to eat in the temple. And of course it was never eaten.
That's right.
This seems ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, whatever was left, the priests got to take. This was a really good count. Okay? Let's just call it a spade a spade. It was a really good count. Around 700 before the Common Era, the priests put together this book and then brought it out of the temple saying, look what we found! It says that the only temple can be in Jerusalem, and you got to bring your offerings to the Jerusalem temple. Man, I would have loved it. Okay? So, yeah, they did some good stuff. I mean, money went back out to the poor. When it was done correctly, money did go back out to the poor. People were to bring their own sacrifices in and be able to lay them on the altar, and then they burned them up for them. But the main thing is all blood and all fat belonged to God. You couldn't eat fat, you couldn't eat blood. You can eat meat, you can have all your other stuff, and then you bring in, first fruits. You bring in wine, you bring in oil, you bring in grain, you bring in, cattle and everything else. And some of it goes to the priests because they're running the temple and they're not working. Yeah, it was pretty good situation for some. And the people go home happy because now God's given them atonement. Okay? And then they figured out later that you don't need the temple for that. Because on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we get atonement anyway. So, And then the temple got burned down, so, you know, it's a moot point anywhere anyways. Okay, so, now, how does translation affect our understanding of Scripture? Yeah.
Before you get on to that, as I understood Mormon theology, the eternal part of all of this was called intelligence.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the Jewish tradition that would be the equivalent of that idea?
No, because they don't talk about anything coming before. God put it all here, and that's all we got to worry about.